Are you a student who has struggled raising their hand or communicating with their teachers properly to let them know what's going on or to give you an extension or anything like that? Or maybe you're just trying to talk to a family member or a friend about a really hard topic and you can't figure out the words and you may be a little bit too scared to actually go up to them. If you've had this issue before, like me, I'm also a student who has struggled with that before. You've come to the right place. In this episode, we are going to be talking about effective communication both in and out of school because both are really, really important and they can really affect your future as well. If you don't know me, I'm Jenny. I run my own self-help podcast. This is episode 7, I think. And if you want to support, make sure to follow, subscribe. I will make sure to link everything down below, or if you just search me up anywhere, you should be able to find me. Okay, first off, what is effective communication? To me, and I'm sure it's a lot of other students, effective communication is having the ability to say what you need to say to anyone about any topic. Even it might be asking a question in class, or it might be something even harder, as such as having a meeting with a teacher, having a meeting with a proctor, or someone you look up to as well. And having the ability to effectively communicate with others, no matter the age or status or anything, can be really, really important because it can help you build better relationships, build healthier relationships, and just make yourself stand out to people, especially because effective communication is not just a skill that everyone has or that a lot of people are naturally born with. It's usually something that you have to learn and you have to build, and you just really have to work at it to become better at it. And the more you do it, the better you will get at it, I promise you. Now, in school especially, you have teachers that you obviously spend an entire year with, school year with, and you want to be able to effectively communicate with them, especially if there's something going on in your life that you want them to know about, or if you just want to build better relationships. And this is very important junior and senior year if you're asking for letters of recommendation, or you're asking them to be one of your someone who recommends you for a job or anything. These can be this can be just really important just for life even after high school and even in college when you have professors who, usually can be a little bit more understanding and they can let you go easier. Now, I'm sure a lot of you was a student who used to struggle with raising their hand and used to struggle talking with teachers and used to just have a hard time being able to communicate my own needs as a student to my teachers or even to my parents or to my friends and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell you some tips and tricks that I use, especially in school, to help me become a better communicator and help me stand out to my teachers and, you know, make them give me really good letters of recommendation or be really good recommenders for me in all different types of areas. And obviously, this is not something that is going to happen overnight, not unless you really put in the work and effort and just are willing to put yourself out there automatically. This is something that you have to practice and practice and practice until you get better at it because you learn from your mistakes. Um, I mean, that is what effective communication is. You have to learn from your mistakes, learn what did and did not work out with a certain teacher. Because at the end of the day, everyone is different and everyone has different ways that they prefer to communicate or they prefer to talk to someone or anything of that nature. Now, we're going to start by talking about communication in school. Communication in school can be something as small as just raising your hand, asking a simple question. And I'm sure a lot of you guys might not struggle with that. It might be really easy for you to just ask for help and it just comes naturally to you because you know that is what teachers are there for, to help you out and to not judge. If your teacher judges you for asking a question, that's not a you problem. It's probably a them problem. And I wouldn't overthink it too much if that's the case. However, if you struggle with even raising your hand and talking in class or public speaking or any of that, or just makes you super nervous like it used to make me, some tips that I have that have worked for me so well. I promise you, I used to be so shy. Like I could not even raise my hand. I would just sit there, even if I knew the right answer. I would just sit there and wait for someone else to get the credit for it because I just was not willing to raise my hand. That's how anxious I was, which is totally valid. Some people are more shy than others, but eventually you're going to have to raise your hand or you are going to get picked on by the teacher, and that's going to be that's a whole nother type of anxiety right there. Now, these tips are especially if you have like a really big presentation coming up that you just want to overcome and that you might be a little bit anxious about, my first tip is prepare for it. Do not, unless you are someone who can really get up there and just say what you need to say and then be done and not get anxious up there, which is very, very few people that I know of. You want to prepare for it. And the way that I prepared for a lot of my things is just by practicing in front of a mirror to myself. Because if you can see how you look and whether or not you're making eye contact or not, and your body language, that says a lot, because you can just see what's wrong and see what you need and can fix even. And a lot of times this helped me out, especially when even if I was presenting just in front of a teacher, that helped me out so much, because I could just fix what I need to fix as well. And preparation can also look like reviewing your notes, memorizing if you need to memorize, which I know can be really difficult for some people. But if you need to memorize something, make sure you put in the effort to do that. Don't stay up late doing it. Obviously, I never condone that or anything. Just practice it, practice it, practice it. Because the more you practice it, the more it's going to become muscle memory for you, and the more you're going to remember it as well. And if you're able to practice in front of people who you trust practicing in front of, or maybe practice in front of classmates even, because they know what you're going through and they know the struggle, and they might be anxious as well, and they can give you tips and tricks about how to become less anxious and how to, you know, maybe they can give you tips like, hey, maybe enunciate more. Hey, maybe you should speak up more. You seem really shy. You seem really closed in. Like, you seem anxious. And, just practice. Imagine that, like, everyone has the same fear that you do in one way or another, even if it's a bigger fear or a smaller fear. Presenting can make anyone nervous, and that's totally understandable. And, you can always just start small, especially in class, if you want to work on talking more and raising your hand more and just more participation, because that makes you stand out to the teachers a lot more if you participate, if you ask questions, if you are willing to put yourself out there and ask questions that other people might be too scared to ask. And you can start small by maybe having a quick one-on-one conversation with your teacher, which I know can sometimes be a little bit scarier than participating in class, but that's what really helped me out, especially sophomore year. I started talking to my teachers more one-on-one. I went to their study halls, I went to their office hours and all that stuff, just so I could get one-on-one help, because I felt more comfortable with that, because I didn't have to raise my hand in the middle of class and, you know, because that did embarrass me a little bit, but there's nothing to be embarrassed about. If you need help, you need help. And if you're more comfortable maybe asking someone else, like a table mate next to you, for help, do that. Please do that. And, I'm sure other people are willing to ask for you even. It really is just about finding the way to find someone you might be a little bit more comfortable talking to, and then from there moving forward and saying, hey, who else might I be more comfortable talking to? And of course, it is completely rational to like not want to talk to people, or maybe there are some types of people who maybe just overwhelm you. Maybe someone who has way too much energy overwhelms you, and you just don't want to, really associate yourself with someone like that or anything, which is completely okay as well. And just remember, at the end of the day, someone else might have the same question that you do, and if you ask it first, they are going to thank you so much. Even if they don't actually like say, hey, thank you for asking that, they're going to be relieved that someone else asked that for them. And I'm sure you felt that way a lot too, if someone else asked a question you wanted to ask so badly. And remember, everyone is there to learn. No one is there to judge other people. When someone is there judging you for asking a question, who are they to judge? Literally, who are they to judge? You might not even see these people in a couple years anyway, so it's not going to matter in the long run. And I know a lot in school you have to work in groups, and this can be, a whole new environment that communication comes in really, really handy, especially if the group members are actually to have a role. Make sure to set roles for everyone. Like, you have to get this done, you have to get this done. Make sure we have this done by this due date. And just make sure, if no one else is wanting to step in as leader, make sure you're the one to do that, because every group needs some sort of leader to keep them all on track. Because if there's no leader and you're all goofing off, nothing is going to get done. Literally nothing is going to get done. And you just have to be okay with you don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be rude about it. Be respectful and be like, hey, have you finished this? Hey, just checking in. Did you get this done tonight? Can you get this done tonight? Or hey, can you meet up later? Can we get this done tonight together? I see if you're struggling, I'm more than happy to help. Just be respectful and choose your groups carefully too, because remember it is for a grade, and ultimately your grade will affect a lot more things than you think, especially going forward, because those are usually worth a lot of points. And my last tip for like communication in school, especially talking to teachers, if you don't want to, talk to them, you know, verbally, you can always just shoot them an email. Usually that's a lot of this that makes me a lot less nervous and actually talking to a teacher like I am right now. Um, you just have to send an email, be respectful of their time. Don't expect them to automatically respond to you or get back to you quickly. Teachers have their own lives too, and you just have to wait. And if they don't respond to your email, be like, hey, I sent you an email. Have you looked at it? 9 times out of 10, usually they've looked at it but just haven't gotten a chance to get back to you, or they can answer your question in class, and then you could just continue forward with that conversation in class rather than just online, which can sometimes be more difficult than talking in person. I know I might have gone through that a little bit too quickly, but those are just some tips and tricks. Start off slow, build your way up. Don't feel so stressed out about pushing yourself to do it really quickly. Just take your time with it. If you've been practicing a little bit, keep practicing, keep doing it. Don't stop doing it. Don't stop talking to your teachers, trying to reach out, especially if you need help. Now we are going to talk about communication outside of school. So this would include communication with family members, communication with friendships, and to form better social connections as well, and of course online communication, which is also a super super important thing. Even if it's not direct to verbal communication, online communication like texting, emailing, anything like that can be really really important. Now, I have family members who, are not the best at communicating effectively. So, from that, I can tell you what not to do, but I also want to tell you what to do if you want to properly communicate with your parents or maybe anyone else in your family. I'm just saying because it can be really important, especially family relationships, to make sure you are communicating with them and make sure you're telling them what's going on, because you don't want to suddenly burst out on them and cause a whole mess and drama and anything like that, especially not in your family. Now, I know with family we spend the most time with them. We get to know them really really well, especially over the years. And usually it's all about finding the right time to talk about stuff. Sometimes obviously there will be times where family members will bring up stuff and you don't want to talk about. And if that is the case, then what you want to do is stay calm, try not to freak out, try not to panic, which I know can be hard because you tend to be more emotional with your family because they've seen you, or hopefully they've seen you and they tend to know you a little bit better. Sometimes they don't, which is completely understandable. But you really just have to stay calm and use clear language, and don't be afraid to set boundaries with them either, because if anything, they should be the ones respecting your boundaries out of anyone else because they are your family. And again, I completely understand if you don't have family members like that, or if family members just tend to cross your boundaries or cross the line and anything like that. It really just, if you are unable to get your point across, just listen actively and try to remain calm. I know I keep saying that, but try and stay calm. Try to think things through properly, because sometimes a lot of people will say things out of how they feel, not because they're thinking logically, because they're thinking with how they feel. They might feel angry, so they're saying stuff that they typically would not say to you if they were not angry or if they were not so stressed out or anything like that. So just really pay attention. It's not your job necessarily to constantly pay attention to other people's feelings or how other people feel, but just keep that in mind as you're trying to communicate with your family and you're trying to get a point across. Or if you have family who has like opposing views against you, just keep that in mind too. Not everyone has the same views, obviously, and that's okay. But it is okay as long as they're not hurting anyone with the views that they have, or they are not discriminating against anyone with the views that they have. Again, you can't control everyone, especially my family members, but just keep that in mind and just relax, take a deep breath. If you need a second to just step outside, take a deep breath. That's that's really what matters, because effective communication does not just mean having the ability to talk to other people. It also means knowing when you should not talk to people and knowing when it is not the right appropriate time to talk to others. And if you're setting a boundary, just be strict with it. If they are crossing your boundaries, then they shouldn't, then until they can actually respect your boundaries, I usually just don't talk to that person. If they cannot respect my boundaries or respect my space and my privacy, it's just better. It's hard with family members, but still, if you can stick to your boundaries and remind them, hey, this is my boundary. You cannot, like, I'm sorry, but you cannot be doing that. Just, it just takes time. And obviously, standing up to family members can be really, really difficult. I totally understand, but, it just takes time. It takes effort. And I'm sure the older we get, the more we talk to them, the more we are able to talk about how we really feel and all that. Now, with friends, communication is going to look a little bit similar, but for a friendship to be healthy, effective communication can be so, I keep saying important. I don't know what other word to use, honestly, but it's really significant. There we go. It's really significant in friendships, especially, or in relationships even, because you want to be a good listener, you want to be an active listener, you want to not interrupt the other person, let them get their point across before you start talking again. And honestly, the more effectively you communicate, the more arguments you're going to avoid. And this, obviously, arguments can get really out of hand, it can get really mean, it can get rude. You tend to offend each other when you're both angry and worked up. And like I mentioned before, effective communication is also about knowing when not to talk. When you know you are worked up and you should not be communicating with people, or you know you do not have the ability to actually communicate how you feel, because you how to communicate how you feel because you're angry or you're upset or something else is going on. And obviously, with friends, if you want to be friends with someone and you want them to like you, reflect back what you hear. Do not just be thinking about a response to what they're saying. Reflect back what they're saying. Like, it's almost like repetition, like you want to repeat back what they say, but not exactly. So I will give an example. So let's say my friend Sally. I'm Sally right now. Hi Genevieve, how was your day? Oh, my day's good. That would be an example of, like, obviously you want to have a response, but as you're talking to someone, you want to really think about what they're saying, really soak in. I don't know why I said that. Soak in what they're saying and listen to what they're saying. Don't just let it go in one ear and out the other. You don't want to be that type of friend where you just forget everything about them, or you are not actually listening to them. And a good example would be if someone is telling you about their day, telling you about how good their day is, telling you about how great they feel. Um, Usually I like to respond with, "Oh, I bet that sounds like something really fun. Can you tell me more about it?" Get them to talk more, cuz people really love talking about themselves, and that's really going to, obviously, don't use this to your advantage. Don't use it in a negative way, but people do like to talk about themselves, and usually sometimes they might not have someone else that they can talk to these things about. So just listen. You don't always have to respond. You just listen, just nod, be like, "That's so cool. Like, please tell me more. Like, I want to know more." Genuinely be interested in what the other person is saying, because you would want the exact same thing if someone else is listening to you. That's just the truth. You want someone else to be listening to you. You want someone else to genuinely be interested in what you're saying. So be engaged in the conversation. Know when to say something. Know when to not say something. And usually these indications become really clear as you're talking to someone. So if someone's just yapping about their day, just listen, nod along, smile at them, look at them in the eyes. Be open with your body language as well. It's really, really important. Talking to anyone, body language, oh my god, it can make or break effective communication, because you don't want to be closed off talking to someone and be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways, let's talk about me. You don't want to do that. That's the last thing you want to do, if anything. You don't want to be closed off. Be open, smile, laugh with the other person if they're laughing, it doesn't matter. Like, just be interested. You have to be really interested in people and you want to get to know them genuinely, even if they're still your friend. You want to listen to them and all of that. And handling conflicts with them can also be, much of the same thing. Just listening to what they're saying, like genuinely, and fixing mistakes that have been made. Because it's okay that if there have been mistakes that have been made, as well. Of course, you just want to know how to handle it. Be kind. Don't be disrespectful. Find the right time. Find solutions that you can both agree on. Now, online communication, I think this one can be really obvious, really quickly. Everything online stays online. Even if you delete it, I'm sure someone else will probably have screenshotted it, or someone knows you have posted it. Just don't post anything online that can or will get you in trouble. You don't want to do that. You don't want to put yourself in that position where you could get in trouble, or you can get, because it can be really serious if you're like using slurs. Like, just be respectful online to anyone. It doesn't matter who it is. Be respectful. Don't avoid misunderstandings. If you don't know what you're trying to say, don't say it at all. Just for the better. Okay, now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into improving your own communication skills. I mentioned a lot of the points I'm going to bring up again, like especially active listening. Be engaged in the conversation. Make sure you are concentrating on what the person is saying. Whether it's in class, you want to understand the concept that you're being taught. You want to understand what you're being told, just so you are able to use it later, or, especially in school, like you want to remember, you want to stick with all of this. Obviously, in school, you can take notes, but obviously, it's weird if you're taking notes while people are talking, like just a casual conversation. But, you can make mental notes. Just make mental notes like, oh, this person, like, for example, I love to make mental notes of when people's birthdays are, or like if they have a really important date coming up. So then later I can ask them about it and be like, hey, how was this? Hey, how was your doctor's appointment? Hey, did you end up going on that date or not? Because that just shows people that you are actually listening. You're being an active listener, and they're going to naturally want to reciprocate that back to you. It's just, it just helps. It helps you make friends. It helps you keep friends. It helps you seem interested in what they're saying and what they've been saying, because you don't want to be distracted while you're talking to someone, or like I gave the example, being so closed off that you just seem like you don't want to talk to anyone, or you seem like bored almost, or you're like, oh, I don't want to talk to this person. Be engaged. Talk to people. Like, facial expressions can be so important. Eye contact, nodding along, smiling, laughing, giggling. It doesn't matter, just as long as you seem and are actually engaged in the conversation. That's what people are going to remember about you. Especially if you're someone who wants to be remembered, or if you are in a situation where you maybe need people's support and need people to like you in order to get maybe a job position, maybe, it's also going to help like in any like work type environment, especially in school. If you're going to have to work with these people again, they're going to remember you. They're going to be like, oh, hey, this person remembered when I told them this. This is a good person to work with, because they can actually listen and follow directions and do stuff like that. And, even with nonverbal communication, this also looks body language. Body language is so important, I swear. It will never not be important. Because if you walk into a room, it does not matter what you look like, but if you walk into a room and you're crouched over, you're looking down, you're not looking at anyone, you're not looking at anything, you're going to seem insecure. People are going to automatically assume that you're not a good communicator, because you're not communicating how you actually feel to a room full of people. But on the other hand, if you are standing up straight, looking around, looking for people to talk to, smiling, making eye contact, you're going to seem automatically more interesting. You're going to seem that much more important to other people as well. And obviously, this is not only applies in school. You want to take this attitude everywhere you go, because you don't always want to seem very, insecure or anything like that, which has a really direct correlation with effective communication. Because if your body cannot show that you are confident, at least in some way, even the tiniest bit confident, people are not going to talk to you, and you're not going to want to talk to other people. And then that's going to absolutely ruin how you communicate with other people in the future. And just trust me, I've seen it happen. It happened to me for a little bit when I just did not have the confidence to like talk to anyone or do anything like that. You know, just, pay attention to your tone of voice too, because you really just want to make sure that you're talking to someone, because you're not going to talk the same way to a 5-year-old that you're going to talk to a much older person. That's just not the way it's going to be. But make sure you have the ability to explain things to someone as if they were 5. I know it sounds strange, but this also helps with like studying. Like if you cannot explain the concept to someone as if they were 5, you don't actually understand what you're talking about. Because not everyone uses really big words. Yes, there are really big words out there, but those are usually used in writing or to explain in detail something. So you just want to make sure you are able to don't use too big of words. Make sure everyone actually understands what you're saying. Of course, maybe if you're in a group of really talented people who like can use those words, and they will actually understand you if you use those bigger words. Just keep that in mind as you're going through trying to communicate with more people, and just trying to get that head start on talking to more people and being a more effective communicator as well. You just have to match your tone with what you're trying to say. So if you're trying to say something sweet, you're not going to say it, "Hey, I like your shirt." You're not going to say it like that. Oops, my dog is barking. Whoops. Sorry. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but I can for sure. But if you're trying to compliment someone, obviously go in with the right tone. Be like, "Hey, oh my God, I literally love your shirt. Like, where did you get it?" Because that seems you're interested in someone. Well, not interested, like interested, but like you want to know, like you actually genuinely like their shirt, And a compliment can go a really long way to someone. Like if someone is having a bad day and you compliment them, I'm sure they're going to appreciate it, even if they don't show it on their face. And again, if you appreciate a compliment, show it. Tell someone, "Thank you. Oh my God, that means so much to me." Smile to them. Be like, "Oh my God, thank you." Like, it's really about being able to match your tone with what you're trying to say. It is beyond important in any environment, because you're not gonna use that same tone like with like a teacher if you're trying to like actually get stuff done and actually have a more professional conversation with them. Now if you are trying to stand up for yourself, there is a difference between being assertive and being aggressive. You don't want to be aggressive. You want to be assertive. You want to stand I don't know how to say it, but just be able to stand up for yourself respectfully without offending anyone else. And I know obviously sometimes you might want to be forceful or hostile because this other person might have done something really, really horrible to you, but just make sure you stand up to them in a respectful way. Because I guarantee you, if you stoop down to the other person's level of being rude, mean, and disrespectful, you're not going to look any better. You're not going to look any better. You're going to look even worse, if anything, because you're stooping down to their level. You're being even worse than they are. You are, like, that makes you not a really effective communicator. That's going to make you seem like a really hostile person and make it seem like you can't actually stand up for yourself. And if you want to really express how you feel without necessarily blaming the other person, being respectful about it, use I statements. So say, "I feel like you made me feel like," well, that's a you statement. Whoops. Just be clear and direct with how you feel, not with what the other person did. Say, "I feel sad." Just talk about yourself so the other person does not feel attacked, and then it does not lead to a really big argument about, "Hey, you're blaming me for this. Let me yada 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 yada." Because I guarantee you, if you're calm, collected, and respectful, and you try to respect other people's opinions, it's just gonna go better. Even if you don't want to get into an argument with anyone ultimately, because you don't want to. Obviously, an argument now and then is okay, but you just want to make sure if you're an actual effective communicator, you don't get into arguments super frequently. You are able to communicate clearly. You're able to clearly communicate your points without it becoming something super big or something that people are worried about or that makes other people angry. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I used to be one of those students who was so anxious to get up on in front of a class and talk or do anything. And so I have some tips that how I overcame those communication barriers and that can help you too, because it's so important to be an effective communicator, especially in, in the world we live in, you want to be able to communicate with anyone and anything at any point in time because it's just going to help you get more support or, be more liked. That's really what it's about, just being able to talk to people and listen and do all that. Now, something that I always like to do before I get up and talk in front of a group of people, like especially even through here, like it takes for me sometimes it makes me nervous even recording myself speak, but I like to positive self-talk is so important. Like affirmations say like you're gonna do great, it's gonna be okay, it's just a quick 2 minutes, it's just a quick 2 minute speech, you're gonna be okay, you know this, you know what you're talking about, it's okay, you've been prepared, you are prepared, you're gonna be okay. But I like to say like I'm prepared, I'm gonna be okay, it's gonna go by really quickly, I'm gonna enjoy it, I'm gonna have fun, it's gonna be great, we're gonna do amazing. Just talk good to yourself, because if you talk negatively to yourself, that's what's gonna happen. If you're gonna be so anxious that you're gonna be like, oh my god, what if I mess up, what if I do this, what if I don't make eye contact, what if I look dumb, what if I look stupid, because people are gonna remember you more if you actually did a better job speaking in public than if you did not. People tend to just like forget about those things. And even if you mess up, like it's okay. It's not gonna forever affect you. I know it might seem like it will, but I promise you, if you just talk good to yourself and be positive and just look at the best possible outcome, you're gonna do so much better. And maybe you need some deep breaths right before. Be like, breathe in for 4, breathe out for 8. Anything that helps you or just puts you more in the moment and gives you more time to be ready to talk to people or just talk in front of a class or anything like that. And practicing in those stress situations really helps too. In front of a friend, in front of the mirror, like I mentioned before, it's just gonna really help you know what areas to improve in and what you are already really, really good at, especially like in this aspect of public speaking. And handling misunderstandings is also something really, really important of this. Like I said, like I mentioned throughout this whole episode, you don't want to start an argument with someone when it's not necessary to. You really want to have the mindset of like you want resolution. You're not looking to blame someone else. You're not looking to place the blame on anyone else. And you are open to other people's perspectives. And this is especially helpful if someone asks you a question about your presentation. Don't be scared to ask, can you clarify that? Or I didn't quite understand the question. Can you repeat? It's not gonna, people are more than happy to repeat what they said, especially if they ask a question. Obviously, they're interested enough to ask again. And, you don't try to look for the blame. Don't try and place the blame on someone. And this is why I statements tend to be more important, because if you use you statements, you did this, so then I did this, it places the blame on the other person, and it makes them go, on flight or flight mode, and then makes them look for something else to blame you for, because then they just becomes a blame game, and you don't want to seem like two immature 5-year-olds fighting over who took the last pink crayon out of the crayon box, and now they can't find it. You just don't want to seem that way. It's not going to make you look good. It's not going to make the other person look good, especially not if it's in public. Especially if it's in public, you really want to go in with stay calm, ask for clarification, go in with the mindset of we're looking for a solution. We're not looking for someone to blame. If we can fix this, we're going to fix this. We're not trying to blame anyone. We're not trying to say it's anyone's fault. Just keep that in mind as you're talking to people and you're trying to handle misunderstanding. Oh my god, or anything like that, and just be open to seeing other people's perspectives and seeing how they feel and how they communicate with other people and how they want to be treated as well, because that's so important. And being an effective communicator, you have to be open to seeing how other people see things, and you have to be open-minded, and just be completely okay with what anyone says, even if they say that you made them angry because you did something and you don't know, and that's not something that would have made you angry or made you upset. You just have to understand it. No one is the same. Things affect people differently, and you just need to understand that. Now, we are at the end of this episode. We talked about communication in school. We talked about communication outside of school with friends and family. We talked about improving communication in school and communication outside of school as well. Some key skills to practice when you're trying to be a more effective communicator, and how to overcome some of those barriers that you might have that are keeping you from communicating properly as well. And I just want you to know, obviously, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. You have to keep practicing and practicing and practicing. And you have to be willing to put in the effort and practice that you need to put in, and put yourself out there to become a more effective communicator. And you just really have to think about the good that's going to come out of you being an effective communicator and an active listener. Because at the end of the day, it's one of the most important skills in life, having the ability to listen rather than just being the one who just yaps that no one else wants to listen to. Because let's be honest, there are some people out there who just love to yap and cannot actually listen, and you don't want to be someone like that. You want to be someone who is open to communication, who other people are able to openly communicate with as well. It's so important because you want people to feel safe around you. You want to feel safe around other people and not be afraid to stand up for what you think, or stand up for yourself even, or for other people, because it's so important. You don't want to get treated badly, and you also don't want to cause any problems or drama with anyone either. I have not done this at the end of an episode yet, but I have a little challenge, I guess, that I'm also going to participate in. Of course, I'm not going to know whether you actually participate or not, but it's just fun to, practice these actual things. But communicate with someone today. Compliment someone even. And, put into practice those skills I taught you, eye contact, nodding, body posture, body language even. Just make sure to use it at least once every day, because then that'll get you used to using it, and you're going to become so much better just by doing that every single day. And if you want any more tips and tricks, make sure to make sure to follow me on social media, subscribe. I just want to say thank you if you made it all the way to the end. I know these episodes can be a little bit longer. I try to make this one a little bit shorter, but we'll see how long it turns out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. Make sure to subscribe. Share with anyone who might need to hear this, or share with anyone who might need the tips. You can contact me on Instagram or on YouTube. Those are the only two social medias I am at currently. And I always have a poll on my Instagram story, so you can vote on what the next episode can be about. So if you're interested in that, make sure to go follow and check that out. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next episode next week.